Greetings, my name is Ling. I'm from the group Depresso, and today we will talk about stereotypes. First, let's get to the definition of stereotype. You might know about it as a set idea that people have about what someone or something is like. It is an expectation that people might have about every person or thing of a particular group. For example, men talk about jobs and mechanics, while women talk about makeup and dresses. Or all Asian people are good at math, or something similar. Stereotypes are sometimes overgeneralized, discriminating, inaccurate, and resistant to new information, but can sometimes be accurate. However, this word has taken quite a journey before it got this meaning. You see, traditional printing was a laborious work. They had to painstakingly place each typepiece onto a plate, then applied the ink, then had it pressed onto a piece of paper, and repeat. Later, when the demand for printed materials increased, an innovation was made, the stereotype. It can be used over and over to print multiple pages without people having to manually change the content. The word is French in origin.
Stéréotype.
This one
Stéréo.
means solid, and the word stereotype means not moving or movable, solid type. In designing, stereotype refers to a standard, belief, or idea that many people have about the typical meaning of a shape, color, or form of an object. Let's look at some examples. One of the examples is about colors. This chart shows the meaning of some colors, like red is about energy, passion, love, green is about nature, freshness, and so on. Or, masculine color schemes are usually darker than feminine color schemes. We see a lot of that in advertisements and products around us, such as this example from Dove. We also have gender-neutral colors, and they convey the idea that a product can be used by both genders. Color stereotypes are incredibly popular and important in design due to the natural differences of seeing colors between men and women, as well as the perceptions we grew up with. Next up is fonts. Cursive, thin, smooth fonts are usually regarded as feminine, while bold, thick, straight, sharp fonts are considered masculine. At the same time, some classic fonts are thought of as gender neutral, such as Arial, Times New Roman, and Helvetica. Another example is shape psychology. Circles give you the feeling of something warm, gentle, cute, safe. Squares give off a confident, strong, dependable vibe. And triangles feel dynamic, witty, somewhat dangerous, or even stable in some cases. Those feelings can actually be scientifically explained through our ancestors and our own interactions with those shapes in nature, like how circles are in baby's face, rectangles are in trees and rocks, and triangles are in thorns and mountains. Okay, stereotypes exist, but do they provide any advantages besides being repetitive, boring, and at certain times offensive? The answer is yes. For designers, stereotypes are good starting points to understand their audience. Certain groups will have distinct traits and preferences in what they want from a product, and sellers, or in this case designers, can base on these details to expect possible trends and behaviors. It is also a quick way to get your ideas across and are harder to be misunderstood. Stereotypes can be exaggerated and biased, but they can also reveal some unspoken rules and practices, as well as beliefs and cultural norms of a certain region or group. If you don't speak their cultural language, you cannot get their support. On the other hand, if you know how to utilize stereotypes, they can become appealing due to their familiarity. Our last section is about how to correctly break stereotypes. I'll just focus on designing since the other things are not what we need to discuss just yet. We grow up with stereotypes. They have become somewhat of a staple for the time period, and they are engraved in generations. If you remember at the beginning of this video, I talked about the origin of a stereotype. We used existed modes to do things repeatedly without variation and to save time. And now with its change in meaning, we now use existed modes to judge people and their preferences. That being said, we forgot about context and accessibility. Everything needs a context, and not all the rules are correct. Stereotypes do change over time, and it is important to remember this. If you know how to utilize context and accessibility, you will be able to create amazing and suitable works outside of the given standards. To sum up, we talked about the definition of stereotype in designing, gave some examples, and discussed some of its perks. We also talked about how to break stereotypes correctly with context and accessibility. And that concludes our talk for today. Thank you for your time, and please feel free to ask any questions.